All right, so here we are. We're going to finish this up and we're going to stop talking about the Jonas Brothers because apparently we were having a conversation about the Jonas Brothers and I know nothing about the Jonas Brothers. Therefore, I'm probably really, really lame because I know nothing about the Jonas Brothers. You know what? I don't care that I know nothing about the Jonas Brothers. I don't know. Whatever. All right, so, the Jonas Brothers. All right. All right, so here we are. New hardware stores show a profit in their first year 60% of the time. Suppose that 4 hardware stores open in locations where they do not compete with each other, blah, blah, blah. They are independent. Okay, so each store is independent of the other. What is the probability that all 4 stores show a profit in their first year? Okay, so what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for the probability that the first store has a profit. So I'm going to call it the first store being successful. And then the second store is going to be successful. And the third store is going to be successful. And that's an A, by the way. It doesn't look like it. And the fourth store is going to be successful. And I see the word and I ask myself, how many events do I have? Well, I've got 4 stores. I've got 4 events. So what this is the probability of being successful and successful and successful and successful. And since that probability is 60%, that means it's going to be 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6, or 0.6 to the 4th power. So what is that value? Well, let's find out. Let's break out the calculator. 0.6 to the 4th power is equal to 0.1296. Okay, 0.1296 or 12.96%. All 4 stores fail to show a profit in their first year. So what does that mean? I'm looking for the probability of a failure and a failure and a failure and a failure. Now, what's the probability of failure? Probability of failure is 0.4. So we're looking at 4 events, and in between, multiply failure and failure and failure and failure, 0.4 times 0.4 times 0.4 times 0.4, which is 0.4 to the 4th power. Be careful, that's not 0.4 times 4. So, 0.4, oh, is it 1 minus this? No, it's not. 0.4 to the 4th power equals 0.0256. Okay. At least 1 store shows a profit in their first year. What does this mean? Okay, here's what this means. At least 1 store shows a profit in the first year. If we think about this as being stores, I could have the first store could be successful, and then the second store could fail, the third store could fail, the fourth store could fail, and I would have at least 1 store being successful. Or the second store could be the successful store, and I could have the first store fails, and then success, and then failure, and then failure, but at least 1 store is going to be successful. Or the third store could be the successful store. So I could have failure, and then success, and then failure. Or the fourth store could be the successful store, and I could have failure, and failure, and failure, and success. And I would have at least 1 store being successful. But you know what? Maybe more than 1 store is successful. Maybe the first store and the second store are successful, and the third and fourth store are failures. That would be at least 1 store being successful. But I could also have success and failure and success and failure. I could have success and failure and failure and success. I could have failure, success, and success and failure. I could have failure, success, failure, and success. Or I could have failure and failure and success and success. And there should be 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ha-ha. Or I could have 3 stores being successful. I could have success and success and success and failure. Success and success and failure and success. I could have success and failure and success and success. I could have failure and success and success and success. Or I could have 4 stores being successful, and I could have success and success and success and success. Be careful with that, because if you say success too many times really fast, it's going to bring up an issue we don't want to deal with. Okay, so I need to add up all these probabilities. Now, these 4 are going to be the same, and these 6 are going to be the same, and these 4 are going to be the same, and blah, 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 this is going to be different here, and I could figure all those out. But if we think about this, there is one value that we haven't mentioned here. The only one that's not mentioned here is failure and failure and failure and failure. I'm looking for the sum of all these. And if I would take all these values and add them together, I would get my result. But all of these added together plus all failure have to equal 1. Now this over here is at least 1. And this is none. Because none of them are successes. So here's what happens is at least 1 plus none equals 1. Or what we could say is at least 1 is the complement. To none. And this is really powerful. Because if I'm looking for this, instead of finding all these values, I could find just this. Just failure, 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 or no successes. And if I can find this, and I subtract it from 1, I would get at least 1. So let's go back and look at this question right here. And it says, at least one store shows a profit in their first year, but at least 1 is the complement of none. What's none? Failure and failure and failure and failure. I already figured this out. None is 0.0256. So at least 1 is going to be 1 minus 0.0256. At least 1 is the complement of none. And it rhymes. So 1 minus 0.0256 is going to be 0.9744. There's your answer. That is really easy for a question that could be really difficult. Now, let's go back. Whoop, let's do it this way because we have this tool here. Let's go back to this very first question. This very first question said, at least one of 3 cars is US made. Okay, here's how I could go about that. I could say, oh, the first car is US, but then we've got not US and not US, or not US and US and not US, or not US and not US and US. Or 2 cars. I could have US and US and not, or US and not in US, or not in US, or not, yep, and US. Or I could have US and US and US, and I could find all these probabilities. Or I could remember that at least 1 is the complement of none, because the only one not listed here is not, and not. And if I find this probability and subtract it from 1, I'm going to end up with the sum of all these, because all the probabilities have to add up to 1. All right, so the probability of a car being US made is 0.4. The probability of a car being not US made is 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6, because it's going to be not US and not US and not US. And 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6, let's see, is 0.6 to the 3rd power is 0.216. So 1 minus that, the complement, is going to be 1 minus answer equals 0.784. What's the probability that at least 1 is going to be US made? 0.784. There you go, chapter 14. Now, oh, you know what? Here's my helpful hint for you. When you're thinking about these problems, and you're going through them, and you're asked questions like, what happens? Think about it as event, 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 event. Break it down. What happens for the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. If you do that, it becomes very easy, because thinking about it as a whole can be difficult. Break it down, event 1, event 2, event 3. What happens on my first pick, my second pick, my third pick, my fourth pick? It'll make life a lot easier. And we're done.